Hello. Welcome to my YouTube channel, True Fear and Fiction. Step into the shadows and explore the chilling world of horror. Before watching, please like and subscribe to support me in producing more stories. This helps spreading the video and reaching more people. Thank you for your support and enjoy watching. The old classroom loomed before me as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that stretched across the cracked pavement. I had always been drawn to the abandoned wing of the school, a place filled with whispered legends and hushed fears among students. Tonight, curiosity gnawed at my insides, compelling me to explore what others dared not. The rumors spoke of an incident decades ago, a tragedy that left an indelible mark on the room, haunting it ever since. With each step, the air grew heavier, thick with the scent of dust and decay. The door creaked open as I pushed it, revealing a dark expanse where old wooden desks stood in disarray, their surfaces coated in a layer of grime. Moonlight streamed through broken windows, illuminating fragments of forgotten papers and a blackboard smeared with chalk remnants. The atmosphere was stifling, a suffocating silence wrapping around me like a shroud, and I hesitated on the threshold, a chill racing down my spine. I forced myself to step inside, driven by a reckless mix of bravery and dread. As I crossed the threshold, I could almost feel the weight of eyes upon me, watching from the shadows. A shiver coursed through me, but I shook it off, dismissing it as my imagination running wild. I pulled out my phone, its light flickering against the darkness, and began to explore. The stories I had heard danced in my mind, the whispers of laughter that echoed through the halls, the feeling of being watched, and the inexplicable chill that enveloped the room at night. I reached a desk pushed against the wall, its surface marred by deep scratches, and ran my fingers over them, tracing the patterns left by unseen hands. My heart raced as I imagined the countless hours spent here by students long gone, their spirits trapped in this space, forever echoing their unfulfilled dreams. Suddenly, a noise broke the silence, a soft, deliberate creak from somewhere in the room. My heart leaped into my throat, and I swung the beam of my phone around, illuminating the corners, half expecting to find someone lurking in the shadows. Nothing. Just emptiness. The shadows deepening as if they were aware of my intrusion. Swallowing hard, I took a deep breath, convincing myself it was merely the building settling, a harmless sound in the stillness of night. But the longer I stayed, the more the air seemed to shift around me. I could hear the faintest whisper, a sound like a soft breeze passing through cracked lips, yet no one was there. I strained to catch the words, but could make out nothing coherent, just a thread of melancholy woven into the very fabric of the room. I made my way to the blackboard, its surface inviting me closer. The faint, ghostly remnants of lessons long forgotten still lingered in the dust. I reached for a piece of chalk resting in the dust and hesitated. Would it be foolish to write something? Maybe it was my own way of leaving a mark, a connection to those who once inhabited this space. I scrawled "help" across the board, the letters stark and desperate against the dull green. A chill crept up my spine, and I stepped back, heart racing as if I had just committed an act of sacrilege. The air grew colder, and a whisper echoed again, more insistent this time, wrapping around my consciousness like a vine tightening its grip. "Leave," it murmured, the voice a soft caress laced with urgency. I froze, uncertainty gripping me. Was it the wind or something far more sinister? I turned to leave, the sudden urge to escape clawing at me. But as I stepped toward the door, a loud bang resounded behind me. A desk had toppled over, crashing to the ground as if propelled by an unseen force. Panic surged through me, and I sprinted to the door, but it slammed shut before I could reach it. My hands flew to the handle, but it wouldn't budge, an iron grip holding it fast, trapping me inside. The whispers grew louder, rising in a cacophony of sorrowful cries. Shadows flitted around the room, elongating and twisting, creating forms that seemed to reach for me, their ghostly fingers trailing wisps of cold air. I pressed my back against the door, heart racing, feeling the sweat drip down my brow. "Please let me out!" I shouted, my voice echoing against the walls, swallowed by the oppressive darkness. Then, just as suddenly, the noise ceased. A heavy silence enveloped the room, thick and suffocating, broken only by the sound of my ragged breaths. I felt a shift in the atmosphere, as if the very essence of the room had changed. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach as I faced the blackboard once more. In bold, spidery letters, new words had appeared. "Stay with us." My breath hitched, a cold wave of terror crashing over me. The shadows danced, coalescing into fleeting forms, faces twisted in anguish, eyes wide with despair, reaching out as if pleading for release, for recognition. I stumbled back, hitting the wall, a hard reminder of my reality. "Who are you?" I gasped, desperation lacing my voice. "Lost," came the response, the word echoing like a bell tolling in the dark. "Help us." The energy in the room shifted again, and I could feel it, the weight of their sorrow, their longing. I was standing at the precipice of something ancient and terrifying, a connection that transcended time. The classroom wasn't just a space, it was a vessel of memories, each one infused with the emotions of those who had suffered here, trapped in a loop of despair. I felt a pull, an overwhelming urge to understand, to help. "What do you want?" I asked, tears stinging my eyes, a mixture of fear and empathy battling within me. The shadows seemed to recoil momentarily, as if my question had struck a chord. "Release," they whispered, their voices entwining in a mournful symphony. The pain, the burden. The realization crashed over me like a wave. They were not seeking revenge or terror. They were asking for acknowledgement, for someone to recognize their existence, to break the chains of their sorrow. I knew then that I could not abandon them. I had to find a way to help, to give them the release they so desperately sought. Taking a deep breath, I approached the blackboard again, grabbing the chalk. "I see you," I wrote, my hand trembling. "I hear you. You are not forgotten." The words seemed to resonate in the stillness, a bridge forming between our worlds. The shadows shifted, their forms coalescing, the atmosphere lightening just a fraction. The whispers softened, becoming almost melodic, a haunting lullaby that wrapped around me. "Thank you," they breathed, their gratitude washing over me like a warm breeze. The door suddenly swung open with a creak, the darkness retreating like a tide. I stood frozen for a moment, fear and relief battling within me. I turned back to the board, but the shadows had begun to fade, their presence lifting like morning mist. "You are free," I whispered, tears streaming down my cheeks. With one last glance at the empty desks, I stepped out into the hallway, the cool night air washing over me as I left the haunted classroom behind. The weight of the darkness had lifted, and though I was terrified, I felt a sense of peace settle in my heart, knowing I had listened, and in listening, had set them free. The school had long since fallen silent, its halls echoing with the memories of laughter and learning. But as I crept through the dimly lit corridors, I felt an electric thrill coursing through my veins. I had heard the stories, the haunted classroom at the end of the hall where a tragic accident had taken place years ago. A teacher had vanished one stormy night, leaving behind only a whisper of her presence, and now her spirit was said to linger, restless and sorrowful. It was past midnight, and the moon cast a pale glow through the grimy windows, illuminating dust motes that danced in the air like lost souls. I had come alone, armed only with a flashlight and a desire to uncover the truth. As I approached the classroom door, a shiver ran down my spine. The door was slightly ajar, creaking softly as if inviting me in. I pushed it open, the hinges groaning in protest, revealing a space frozen in time. Desks were arranged in neat rows, each one covered in a thick layer of dust, and the air felt charged with an unseen energy. The blackboard, once filled with notes and equations, was now a blank canvas, but traces of chalk lingered like memories refusing to fade. I stepped inside, the floorboards creaking beneath my weight, and a chill swept through the room, raising the hairs on my arms. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling slightly as it echoed off the walls. Silence enveloped me, thick and suffocating. I aimed my flashlight around, the beam cutting through the darkness, revealing old posters peeling from the walls and a forgotten stack of textbooks abandoned on a desk. Then, I saw it, a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye. I turned quickly, my heart racing, but nothing was there, just shadows stretching and shifting, playing tricks on my mind. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I was here to investigate, to confront whatever haunted this place. As I moved further into the room, I felt a cold breeze wash over me, making me shiver despite my jacket. It felt as if someone had walked past, brushing against my shoulder. I spun around, my flashlight beam sweeping across the room, but again, I found nothing. The sensation lingered, however, a whisper of presence that filled me with both dread and curiosity. I approached the blackboard, drawn by an inexplicable urge. My breath fogged in the cold air as I reached out, my fingers brushing against the surface. To my surprise, faint words began to materialize, as if being written in real time. "Help me." My heart raced, and I stepped back, eyes wide. The message was clear, and I was no longer sure if I wanted to engage with whatever force resided here. "Who are you?" I stammered, the words spilling from my lips. "What do you need?" In response, the lights flickered, and I felt a sudden rush of wind swirl around me, lifting strands of my hair. I was gripped by an overwhelming sense of sadness that washed over me, heavy and suffocating. It felt as if the room itself mourned, echoing the loss of something precious, a life snuffed out too soon. "Please," the voice whispered, soft yet urgent, floating through the air like a wisp of smoke. "I'm trapped." Fear clawed at my insides, but something deeper compelled me to stay. "Trapped? How can I help you?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. The temperature dropped further, and I could see my breath forming small clouds in the air. "Find my things," the voice continued, a faint whisper that seemed to come from all around me. "They hold the key." "What things?" I pressed, desperation lacing my words. The shadows flickered, coiling and stretching across the room, as if the very walls were trying to respond. "Beneath," it echoed, fading into silence, leaving a heavy stillness in its wake. I glanced around the room, feeling the weight of the spirit's sorrow pressing down on me. Something lay beneath the floorboards, a secret hidden away. My heart raced with a mix of fear and determination. I couldn't leave now, not after I had felt that connection. I had to find whatever was buried there. I moved to the far corner of the room where a desk stood slightly ajar, its wood worn and weathered. Kneeling down, I inspected the floorboards, running my fingers over the cracked surface. With trembling hands, I began prying at a loose plank, the wood creaking in protest. As I lifted it, a musty smell wafted up, and I uncovered a small, dust-covered box. It was old and worn, the latch rusted with age. My heart raced as I carefully opened it, revealing a collection of faded photographs and brittle papers. My breath caught in my throat as I flipped through the items, my mind racing to make sense of them. Among the photos was a picture of a young woman, her smile radiant and eyes sparkling with life. Below it was a handwritten note, "For my beloved students, always in your hearts." I felt a pang of sadness as I realized that this was the teacher, the one who had vanished. The items were a part of her life, her memories, her love for her students. As I continued to sift through the box, a small locket fell out, clinking softly against the wood. I picked it up, opening it to find two tiny pictures, one of the teacher and the other a little girl with bright eyes. "Her daughter," I whispered, realization dawning. The bond between them was tangible, a connection that transcended the veil of death. Suddenly, the air shifted again, and the room grew colder, the whispers returning, louder now, filled with emotion. "Thank you," the voice breathed, reverberating through the space. "Now I can rest." I felt a warm sensation envelop me, a sense of gratitude and release washing over me. The shadows began to coalesce into a softer form, the outlines of the teacher emerging before me, her expression serene. The sorrow that had filled the room lifted, replaced by a gentle light that seemed to illuminate the darkness. "I will always be with them," she said softly, her voice filled with warmth. "Thank you for bringing me home." Tears filled my eyes as I nodded, understanding the magnitude of what I had done. I had given her a voice, a chance to say goodbye, to release her burdens. The classroom, once a place of pain and loss, now felt imbued with peace. With one last grateful smile, the apparition faded, leaving behind a lingering warmth that enveloped me like a hug. The air felt lighter, the shadows no longer ominous, but rather a gentle reminder of the past. As I stood in the now quiet classroom, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. I carefully placed the box back beneath the floorboard, ensuring the memories would remain safe, cherished. With a final look around, I stepped back into the hall, the door swinging shut behind me. The haunting had ended, and as I walked away, I knew that the classroom would never be the same. The spirit had found her peace, and I had become part of a story that would linger long after the final bell had rung. The clock struck midnight as I crept through the empty halls of Maplewood High, my heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. Rumors swirled among the students about Room 204, a classroom abandoned for years, said to be haunted by the spirit of Miss Clara Hayes, a beloved teacher who had mysteriously disappeared one fateful night. I had always dismissed the tales as mere folklore, but curiosity gnawed at me, urging me to uncover the truth. The hallway was cloaked in shadows, the flickering fluorescent lights casting eerie shapes on the walls. As I approached the door to Room 204, I felt an inexplicable pull, as if something beyond the threshold was beckoning me closer. I reached for the handle, my palms sweating, and pushed the door open, the creak echoing in the silence. Inside, the classroom was frozen in time. Desks were pushed aside, their surfaces layered with dust, and the blackboard remained covered in chalky remnants of lessons long forgotten. A cold breeze swept through the room, and I shivered, goosebumps prickling my skin. I stepped in, the floorboards groaning underfoot, and flicked on my flashlight, the beam slicing through the darkness. As I scanned the room, a sense of unease settled in my stomach. The air felt thick, heavy with a tension that sent chills down my spine. I aimed the light toward the blackboard, where faint words began to shimmer into view. I am here. My breath caught in my throat, and I felt a shiver of recognition. The message was a plea. "Miss Hayes?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Is that you?" The temperature dropped sharply, and I could see my breath clouding in the air. "Help me," the voice echoed, soft yet haunting, reverberating off the walls. I felt a surge of compassion mixed with fear, urging me to uncover the mystery that held her spirit captive. I took a cautious step forward, my heart racing as I recalled the stories. They spoke of a hidden diary, a record of her last days, concealed somewhere in the classroom. With renewed determination, I began to search, rifling through the old textbooks and papers scattered on the floor. Each item I touched felt heavy with history, as if it were imbued with the essence of her presence. As I rummaged through a nearby desk, I found a small, leather-bound notebook wedged between the drawers. My fingers trembled as I pulled it out, the cover worn and cracked. I opened it, revealing pages filled with elegant handwriting, a testament to Miss Hayes' passion for teaching and her deep love for her students. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, and the room felt charged with energy. "You're close," the voice whispered, more urgent now. I glanced around, my heart pounding as I realized I needed to keep digging. I turned my attention to the back of the room, where an old wooden cabinet stood, its doors slightly ajar. I approached the cabinet, hesitating for a moment before opening it fully. Inside, I discovered a tangle of old art supplies, faded posters, and there! Nestled at the bottom was a small, dust-covered box. My hands shook as I pulled it out, feeling the weight of the moment settle on my shoulders. With a deep breath, I opened the box. Inside lay a collection of letters, yellowed with age, each one addressed to Miss Hayes from her students. The words were filled with admiration, gratitude, and a longing that tugged at my heart. I realized these were notes from the students she had touched, expressing their love and appreciation, a treasure trove of memories. But beneath the letters, I found something darker, a folded piece of paper, stained and crumpled. I unfolded it, revealing a journal entry that sent a chill down my spine. "I fear I am losing my way. Strange things have been happening in this classroom. I hear whispers at night, see shadows moving. I must find a way to escape." My breath caught as I read the final lines, a stark reminder of the turmoil she had faced. The room felt colder, the shadows thickening as if they were closing in around me. I could sense her despair, a haunting echo of her last days. "Help me." The voice pleaded again, now filled with sorrow and desperation. "Miss Hayes, I'm here," I shouted, my voice trembling. "I'm trying to help you." The air crackled with energy, and I felt a gust of wind swirl around me, lifting my hair as if the very essence of her spirit was urging me to act. I realized what I had to do. I needed to honor her memory, to give her the closure she sought. I gathered the letters, the diary, and the journal entry, placing them carefully back in the box. I turned to the blackboard and wrote, "You are not forgotten. Your legacy lives on." The words felt like a promise, a tribute to the teacher who had touched so many lives. Suddenly, the room erupted in a whirlwind of shadows, swirling around me in a dance of liberation. The temperature shifted, growing warmer, and I could feel the weight of despair lifting from my shoulders. "Thank you," the voice whispered, filled with an overwhelming sense of peace. As the shadows began to dissipate, I watched in awe as a gentle light filled the room, illuminating the space with a warmth that chased away the darkness. The figure of Miss Hayes materialized before me, her expression serene, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You've set me free," she said softly, her voice like a soothing balm. "I can finally rest." Tears streamed down my cheeks as I nodded, overwhelmed by the emotional release flooding the room. The pain and sorrow that had once permeated the classroom were replaced by an unexplainable joy. I had helped her find her way home. With one last smile, Miss Hayes began to fade, the light enveloping her like a cocoon. "Remember me," she whispered, her voice fading into a gentle echo. As the last traces of her presence disappeared, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. The classroom, once filled with darkness, now radiated with warmth and light. I carefully placed the box back inside the cabinet, knowing it was a fitting resting place for her memories. I took one last look around the room, the walls now imbued with the spirit of a teacher who had found her peace. As I stepped outside, the door clicked shut behind me, sealing the connection I had forged with the past. The hallway felt different now, lighter, more alive. I walked away, knowing that I had not only uncovered a haunting, but had also honored a legacy that would continue to inspire future generations. Maplewood High would always remember Miss Clara Hayes, the teacher who had touched countless hearts, and her spirit would forever linger in the hearts of those who had known her. The clock struck midnight as I made my way through the deserted corridors, my footsteps echoing against the walls. I had heard whispers about room 303, a classroom left untouched since the incident that took place years ago. It was said to be haunted by the spirit of a teacher who had vanished without a trace, her presence lingering like a heavy fog filled with unfinished business. I approached the door, heart pounding in my chest, and pushed it open. The air inside was thick with dust, and the faint smell of mildew hung heavy. Desks were scattered as if abandoned mid-lesson, and the blackboard was a ghostly canvas of faded scribbles. I stepped in, my flashlight illuminating the room, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. "Is anyone here?" I called out, my voice trembling slightly in the oppressive silence. The only response was the soft creak of the floorboards beneath me. I felt a chill sweep through the room, sending a shiver down my spine. As I turned to inspect the blackboard, I noticed a message beginning to appear in the dust. "Help me." My breath caught in my throat, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. I took a cautious step closer, drawn to the plea. "Who needs help?" I whispered, the darkness around me feeling alive with anticipation. A sudden gust of wind rattled the windows, and I felt a presence beside me, a cold, gentle breath that whispered, "Find my lesson." My heart raced as I scanned the room, desperate to uncover whatever truth lay hidden. "What lesson?" I asked, feeling a connection form between us. I glanced toward a cabinet at the back of the room, its doors slightly ajar, beckoning me forward. I approached the cabinet, my pulse quickening, and pulled it open. Inside, I found a jumble of old books and papers, but something caught my eye, a small, leather-bound notebook resting on the bottom shelf. I pulled it out, dust swirling in the beam of my flashlight, and opened it to reveal pages filled with neat handwriting, detailing lessons and reflections. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and a cold breeze enveloped me, making the notebook tremble in my hands. "You must finish what I started," the voice urged, laced with urgency. "The truth lies within." I rifled through the pages, my fingers trembling as I read about a mysterious project involving a historical artifact, one that had caused turmoil and fear among the faculty. "What happened to you?" I asked, feeling the weight of her sorrow. The temperature dropped further, and I felt the room grow darker, shadows creeping closer. "I tried to protect it," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "But they didn't understand. They thought I was mad." "Who are they?" I pressed, desperate for clarity. The room felt charged with energy, the air crackling around me as if the walls themselves were listening. "The ones who seek power," she said, her voice rising in intensity. "I hid it in the basement, but they found me first." The urgency in her tone spurred me into action. "Where in the basement?" I asked, determination filling me. The spirit gestured toward a corner of the classroom where an old map hung on the wall, its edges tattered. I rushed to the map, tracing the lines with my finger, and saw markings that hinted at hidden passages. "I'll find it," I promised, my resolve solidifying. "You'll be free." As I made my way toward the door, the shadows shifted, swirling around me in a dance of desperation. "Hurry," she urged. "Time is running out." I dashed down the stairs, my heart racing as I reached the basement door. It creaked open, revealing a dark, damp space. I switched on my flashlight and began exploring, scanning the walls for any sign of the artifact. The air was thick with anticipation, and I could feel her presence guiding me. I spotted an unmarked section of the wall, and as I pressed my hands against it, I felt a strange vibration. "Here!" I shouted, excitement coursing through me. With a heave, I pushed against the wall, and it slowly gave way, revealing a hidden alcove. Inside lay an ornate box, intricately carved and covered in dust. My heart raced as I reached for it, knowing this was what she had hidden away. I opened the box, revealing a glimmering artifact, its surface pulsating with energy. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. "Now you must protect it." I nodded, holding the artifact tightly. "I will keep it safe." As the light around me began to shift, I felt a warmth enveloping me, washing away the lingering darkness. "You've set me free," she said, her voice serene. "Remember my story." With that, her presence began to fade, the shadows receding into the corners of the room. A sense of peace filled the air as the classroom lightened, the heaviness lifting like a morning mist. I returned to the classroom, the artifact secure in my hands, and the room felt different, alive with potential and hope. I knew I had not only uncovered a haunting, but had also honored the legacy of a teacher who had given everything for her students. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The spirit of the teacher would always linger in the hearts of those who had known her, and I would ensure that her story and the truth of the artifact would not be forgotten.